Welcome back to Behind the Gloves. I'm Gaz Singh and I'm joined by the Romford Bull, Johnny Fisher. How are you, sir?
Hello, Gaz. I'm good, thank you. Enjoying a few days off. Nice bit of rest over the weekend.
Thanks for taking out time of your busy schedule to talk to us. Before we start talking about boxing, I just want to talk about the name, the Romford Bull. Where did that come from? Did you pick that or was it given to you?
I got called a bull a couple of times when I was in Vegas sparring with Joe. A couple of the American guys, like the trainers who were training some of the other sparring partners, said you fight a bit like a bull. But my dad done a Twitter poll once as well, and like all different nicknames and stuff. He likes doing stuff on Twitter and stuff, and one of them was a Romford Bull, and it was quite popular. So it sort of stuck from there, and it's a good name. I think it suits me, but hopefully I don't always fight like a bull. I just know I can fight like a bull, you know?
Yeah. So let's start by just to tell the people a bit about yourself. Obviously, I think you've had an amateur record of 10 fights. Like 9 of those fights you won in the first round, which is impressive, especially in the amateur game.
No, this is. I don't know where this has come from. I think someone said it to me before. I've had 10 fights and 9 knockout wins. I've actually only had 4 senior fights and I won 3 of them by knockout. But I think people got confused. Well, I've had 10 amateur fights overall. People think I've won all them, but 6 of them were as a junior, and I won London Championships as a junior as well. So I've still got a really good record. I'm really happy with how it went. But it's a very short amateur career. I've only had 4 senior fights, and when you're senior, I only had 4 fights, and 6 of them as a junior were before I was 14, 15. So really, I'm really inexperienced, and I need to get a lot of experience behind me. So that's why I'm good with Mark and with the platform I've got. I'm really grateful.
But 3 out of 4, that's still 90%. It's hard in the game to score a knockout, but
yes,
you've done it. So obviously, there's no official date for your debut yet. Is there anything you can tell us about when you might be out? I know you said December, but we got a date?
Yeah, it was looking like being on the Billy Joe's card, but I don't think that's gonna happen now, because basically me, Eddie, Sam, we're all waiting on the board of control to approve my license. There's a backlog because of the coronavirus outbreak. Everybody's waiting for their licenses to be approved. But I spoke to Eddie Hearn, spoke to Sam, and they both want me out December. So whatever card that's on, there's a couple more cards after that. So hopefully we'll get on one of them.
Nice one. We're all looking forward to it. But who is your style? Obviously, you said some of the fighters out there like compared you to a bull, and your father put out like a poll. But do you think that best describes your style, fighting like a bull?
That's what when I first started sparring Joe, and I first started turning as an amateur, started as a senior boxer, I sort of relied on my strength and my brute strength. So I think that's instinctively how I fight, very aggressively. But I also know that I can box, and I've got a lovely jab, and I can move on my feet, and I can be controlled as well. So that's just one element of how I can fight. And I know when it does get tough and you need to get in their trenches, I know I can fight. And everybody who's seen me spar or box knows that I can have a tear up. So yeah, it's probably in my instinctive nature to fight like that, but that's not the only way I can box.
So obviously you mentioned there you've done a bit of sparring with Joe Joyce. You've been in with some other big names as well. Hughie Fury, you've had a few rounds with. You've been in with Cash Ali. So how do you like, as in like, compare yourself to those guys? Do you think, did you do well in that sparring? Do you think, like, obviously believing in yourself, do you feel that you've got what it takes?
Yeah, so obviously these guys are levels above me at the minute, because I'm just starting out my career. I'm a real novice when it comes to the professional game. But listen, I hold my own in them spars. I spar Joe a lot, and I've improved a lot since I first started sparring him. When I went up to spar Hughie and Cash, they're both great guys, and I've got some really valuable experience with them and held my own in them spars. So I'm really grateful for that. And Dave Allen I've sparred as well, and he was really, really tough. Like we all know Dave's a really tough operator. But that really helped me develop my skills as a boxer, because when you can't just smash through people, you've got to learn how to box on the back foot or use the jab or be a bit cuter. So even a couple of years ago when that helped me develop as a boxer as well.
How's Joe looking? Obviously, he's got a big fight next week against Daniel Dubois.
I've known Joe for a couple of years now, properly, like sparring him, but this is the best shape I've ever seen him in terms of his body fat's reduced a lot. He was, when we think about when he fought, is it Wallish? He fought Wallish. He was very heavy, like 19 stone. Still not in bad shape, but just a lot chunkier. Now he's thinned out and slimmed down. And 12 rounds he sparred the other day on Thursday, and he looks absolutely still strong and powerful, but really fit and moving around for the whole 12 rounds, no problem. So we're going to see the best Joe Joyce.
I assume you're obviously backing your man Joe Joyce to get the victory next week.
Yeah, I'm back in Joe, but I know Daniel's. We all know Daniel's a powerful puncher, and he's got great experience himself, and he's a good operator himself. But it's a 50-50 fight. We know that. That's why everybody's so excited about it. But I think Joe's the man who's going to pull through and stop in them later rounds.
It's going to be a exciting fight next week. One I'm looking forward to. So I just want to talk about your relationship with Sam Jones. How did that come across? Obviously, you're signed to Sam Jones as your manager. You're working with Mark Tibbs as your trainer, and Eddie Hearn as your promoter. Like, for someone who's about to start out, that's the dream team. That is to get your career going. So how does your relationship work with each one of those? How did you come across Mark Tibbs? How did you get in contact with Sam Jones? And what's your working relationship with Eddie like?
So it all started. Sam's the man who started it all off, really, because when I was at university, second year of university, he put an advertisement up on Instagram, like a question: anyone available for sparring for Joe next week? And I said, I can make myself available. I've only had 2 senior fights at that point, but I'll give him some good rounds. I'm tough. And he said, yeah, come along, no problem. And I impressed a little bit there, and I sparred him a few more times. Sparred him over the Christmas period, 2019, then went to Vegas with him. Not even thinking about turning professional at that point, just enjoying the experience while I'm at university. Just it's a great experience for me to be sparring someone like Joe. But then after that, in sort of June, July time, we started talking about turning professional. And from there, it all sort of took off. Sam was sorted with Mark. I knew Mark from before. I always knew about Mark, and he's in the same area as me. But he really sort of got me in there with Mark. And then from there, Eddie Hearn as well. And I had a few promoters after me. But as you said, it's the dream team. I've got Sam Jones, SJM Boxing as my managers. I've got Mark Tibbs, a world-class trainer, as my coach. And then Eddie Hearn, the best promoter in the country. So I couldn't ask for a better setup. I've got a great opportunity now.
So what are your aspirations? Obviously, nobody starts boxing just to win a Southern area title. Obviously, I assume you want to go all the way.
Of course. Listen, I don't know how far I can go. I'm still unproven as it goes, but I know I've got potential there, and that's what people see in me, a bit of potential. Listen, I might get to British level and find out that's as far as I can go, but my aims are to get to the top. And within a couple of years, I know it's going to be a building process to get to even English, British level. But from there, when you're rolling and you've built up a good bit of experience and your ring craft improves, who knows how far I can go. I know I've got power. I know I've got the commitment and desire, but my feet are firmly on the ground. I know it's going to take a lot of hard work, and I've just got a great opportunity now, and it would be stupid not to take it.
So what does the perfect 2021 look like for Johnny Fisher?
It looks like continuing. So I've got a deal with Matchroom at the minute, and then it looks like continuing that deal, getting more wins, and then end of 2021 start announcing myself a bit further into the scene. So moving past them, learning fights, and then getting more to that sort of business end of the sort of regional English level. I know it's going to be a long process because I'm not an Olympian. I've not been on GB, although that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't matter in terms of experience as a professional. But I haven't got that pedigree, and we know I'm slightly unproven. So it might take a little bit longer. It might take a few more fights, but there's no rush. I'm 21 years old. I've got loads of time behind me, so that's not an issue at all.
Do you consider yourself learning on the job, obviously, as you start your career and progress through the fights and different levels?
Definitely. I mean, everyone's learning on the job when they first turn professional, because even if you're a top-level amateur, there's still different things you have to learn as a professional. But for me, especially, as I've only had 10 amateur fights altogether, junior and senior. So it's going to be a long learning process, but I can learn on the job, and that's what most people do in every aspect of life. People, when they go and get a job after university, they don't know exactly what they're going to be doing, but they learn on the job, and that's the best way sometimes.
So these relationships you've developed in the boxing world with like Sam Jones, Eddie Hearn, Mark Tibbs, have they provided you with sort of an external strength, like outside of boxing, that kind of motivates you to go in there and do a job and make good of yourself in this sport?
Oh, definitely. Look, I've got a lot of people backing me now. I've got good sponsors behind me as well, and I've got people who believe in me. My family and friends. I've got a great support network. But to have people like Eddie, Mark, and Sam, three of the best people operating in British boxing at the minute, listen, it gives me that little bit of added motivation, because I've got people who believe in me, and when people believe in you, it helps you believe in yourself. So I've got a great team behind me.
So you were recently out with, I know you said you were hoping to get out on a Billy Joe Saunders card. You were with him over in Spain whilst he's been training for his clash against Martin Murray. How was that for you, having a world champion, being in camp with a world champion? And did you pick up any experience, any valuable stuff you can use when you make your debut?
Yeah, well, even before I went to Fuerteventura, I was training a bit with Billy because obviously trained by Mark as well. Up at Essex Fight Academy, we just done a little bit of training. Even then, he was letting me do a little bit of shadow boxing with him and learning different tricks and bits of footwork. But to be in camp with him, see how he lives, and just we train twice a day, and just to be around, watch the sparring, and you pick little things up even just by being around someone, just watching and learning and seeing how he talks to Mark and how he conducts himself. Don't get me wrong, Billy's a really funny guy at the same time. We had some great times on the weekends and just relaxing and chilling out. But to see him operate as a world-class athlete as well, brilliant for me just to be a part of that.
Brilliant. I just want to pick your brains about, obviously, there's a lot of heavyweight fights that are coming up before the end of the year. The next one, obviously, we've touched on Dubois and Joyce. So moving on past that, you've got AJ against Pulev. What's your prediction for that? How do you think that fight goes?
Don't get me wrong, Pulev's going to be a tough operator, but I think Anthony Joshua's got the power and the experience now behind him to dismantle and Pulev in the later rounds. But I'll just think back to when Pulev fought Vladimir Klitschko, and Vladimir Klitschko really pushed him around the ring and had his way with him. I think Anthony Joshua can do a similar sort of thing with his strength power. And now he has got the experience. He's 30, 31 years old. So he's been around the game a long time now as a seasoned champion. So I think he'll do the business in December.
The same night as Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, you've got Mike Tyson making his return in the early mornings against Roy Jones Jr. What do you think of that fight? Because obviously they're both quite clearly past their prime. It's been classed as an exhibition, but been sanctioned by the WBC. So they could be ranked if they win. Whoever wins that fight. What are your thoughts about that?
Listen, I'm definitely going to tune in and watch it because it's a spectacle at the end of the day. So I think Roy Jones on the pads, he looks really sharp, but you don't know how long Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, how long they're going to be able to keep that pace up at 50 odd years old. I mean, Mike Tyson's ferocious on the pads, but it's a different game when you're sparring or fighting. So listen, it brings more attention to boxing. It's great to see these old legends back in the ring, but I don't know how it will pan out, to be honest with you, because at that age, we don't know how much of it is hype and how much of it is going to be actually materialise on the night as a good fight. But I'll definitely be tuning in to watch.
And it's been a little while now, just over a week since you must have seen it. It's been all over the news. Well, boxing, in the boxing world anyway. But Deontay Wilders obviously come out with a few more reasons as to why he lost against Tyson Fury. What are your thoughts about some of the comments he's made? Obviously, he's come out and said that somehow Fury scratched him inside his ears, that's caused the bleeding, that his water's obviously been spiked, plus the other reasons that were given, his heavy suit that he wore to the ring, etc. What's your thoughts on all of that?
I saw the video. I thought, to be honest with you, everyone thinks it's a little bit far-fetched, to be honest with you. But why didn't he raise these concerns when the contract was still live and he could have had the rematch? It seems quite convenient that he's done it now that the rematch is off and that Tyson Fury is looking at other avenues. But listen, I don't think there's much appetite to see the third fight anyway between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder after what happened in the second fight. I think Deontay Wilder's got to look on to other avenues now. And I think this is just a little excuse for him to sort of get back a little bit of credibility, but it's actually backfired in that sense. But he's a great power puncher in himself. There's other fights out there for him to make, and he can still challenge for a world title when he wants to, because he's one of the top 3-4 names in the division still.
And the last fight I want to get your opinion on is, first of all, did you watch White v Povetkin, the first one back in August? And what are your thoughts on the rematch? And what are your thoughts about immediate rematches?
Yeah, well, picking up on immediate rematches, I was watching the Lennox Lewis documentary the other day, the new one on Sky, and he didn't immediately rematch Hasim Rahman or Oliver McCall. He didn't go chasing his opponent that beat him straight away. He actually took a few fights and then went back to him. But I think the appetite now is looking at other modern heavyweights like AJ Ruiz. People want to get back in there and rematch him straight away. I thought Dylan boxed really well up to that point. Everyone did, and then it just shows the explosive nature of the heavyweight division. The Povetkin could just change it all with one punch. But I think Dylan was a little bit too cautious sometimes when he knocked him down twice in a round and he had a minute left in the round and he didn't sort of capitalise on that. The old Dylan White, the body snatcher, that bit more savage, that savage nature of him, I think that would have taken him out then and there. But I think he's got to bring a bit of that back in the Povetkin rematch, because I know it's not going to happen till next year now, is it? Because of
the end of January.
Yeah. So if he does, he boxed brilliantly, but then you don't just rely on boxing sometimes. When you have someone ready to go, like he did Povetkin when he was knocked down twice, I think you've got to go for the kill a little bit more, and I think that's what he'll do in the rematch.
And the last thing I want to touch on is rank your top 5 heavyweights. What order would you have them in?
Top 5, right. Tyson Fury is number 1. Joshua. Dylan White's up there, number 3. I think Povetkin deserves to be up there. Who have I missed off? Name me some big names, and I'll give you.
Would you have Usyk up there? I know he fought. Some people called it a close fight against Chisora. Would he be in your top 5?
Yeah, Alexander Usyk, I think, is in the top 5 because I've seen him fight in the WSB as well, and he's proved there he can mix it with the big boys and beat some of them. So I think they're your top 5, and then Joe, if he beats Daniel or Daniel beats Joe, that's that they get into that sort of world level criteria. Then once they get through this level.
And do you have a message for all your fans, everybody that's that supports you, and that obviously will be tuning in to watch you when you make your debut?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all my family, friends, and supporters who have helped me so far, and a massive thank you to my sponsors. I've got MK Recruit, my day one sponsors, the Rabbits Essex Pub and Restaurant, Oda Essex Restaurant in Upminster, the Steel Team, and Gimme Golf. They all support me, and I thank them very much for all their help. And if anybody else wants to help me on my journey, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Johnny, for your time. I wish you all the success in boxing, and we'll be tuning in definitely when you make your debut. We'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers. Thanks very much for having me on.
Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do so by clicking this icon right here, or else